This is what silence does to a man psychologically. It is far more powerful than any text you could send, any argument you could win, any late-night heart-to-heart you could force. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of self-control. And when a man has grown used to your voice, your explanations, your emotional labor, your constant availability, your silence becomes deafening. It strips away the safety net he didn't even realize he was leaning on. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop correcting his misunderstandings, when you stop feeding him constant reassurance, you force him to sit with his own thoughts, his own actions, his own consequences. And that is something most people, not just men, are deeply uncomfortable with. For a man who is used to controlling the pace of the relationship, your silence is like suddenly removing the steering wheel from his hands. He thought he had you figured out. He thought he knew exactly how you would react. He thought that no matter what he did, you'd still be there to smooth things over. And now, you're not. At first, he might tell himself it doesn't matter. He might pretend he's fine, that he doesn't need to hear from you, that your absence means nothing. But psychology works differently. Human nature hates uncertainty, and silence is uncertainty personified. Your silence turns into unanswered questions in his mind. What is she thinking? Is she moving on? Does she care at all? That lack of predictability is disarming because you are no longer fitting into the script he had written for you in his head. And when that happens, a man is forced into self-reflection, not because he wants to, but because the space you've left behind demands it. Silence creates a void, and human beings are wired to fill voids. That's why people rebound. That's why they seek distraction. That's why they suddenly start checking in with people they haven't spoken to in months. He will replay your last interactions over and over, trying to pinpoint the exact moment he lost his grip. He will test old photos, old texts, even old smells, like a scientist in his own personal lab of regret. Men feel your absence more sharply than they ever felt your presence, because absence forces contrast. It's easy to ignore a gift you've had for years when it's sitting right in front of you, but once it's gone, you see the empty space where it used to be, and it's impossible to unsee. And here's the thing, silence exposes how much of what he gave was real, and how much was just reactive. When you were vocal, when you were expressive, he could meet you halfway, only when it was convenient, only when he felt pushed. But when you go silent, there's no push. If he wants to close the distance, he has to do it without being prompted. That's when you find out if he ever intended to put in effort on his own. Your silence is a mirror, and for some men, that reflection is uncomfortable. It shows the absence of his consistency, the gaps in his emotional availability, the fact that he only seemed to care when there was a threat of losing you. And then there's the obsessive thinking. People don't obsess over situations that feel resolved. They obsess over the ones that feel unfinished. When you stop trying to resolve things, you leave him with a cliffhanger, and the human mind hates unfinished stories. He will imagine conversations that never happened. He will script apologies he may never send. He will stalk your social media not just to see what you're doing, but to see if you're reacting to him. Silence puts the spotlight on him, and suddenly he realizes the stage is empty. You're not chasing, you're not prompting, you're not delivering your lines anymore. That stillness is deafening. The irony is, silence says far more than words ever could. It says, I'm no longer investing my energy where it's not valued. It says, you can't pull me into the same arguments. It says, if you want me, you will have to meet me in the space I've created. I will not shrink myself to step back into yours. And here's where the psychology gets interesting. The more he tries to fill that silence without actually doing the work, the louder that silence becomes. Because he can text, he can call, he can send flowers, but if none of that is paired with changed behavior, your silence will still echo. Silence is not passive. It is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is an active, deliberate choice to reclaim your emotional real estate. It is the refusal to keep pouring water into a cup that has no bottom. And for a man who is used to having the upper hand, your silence is a psychological shift that turns the tables. Suddenly, he's the one wondering, analyzing, questioning. He's the one losing sleep. He's the one experiencing the discomfort he once left you to deal with alone. The right man will not let your silence linger. He will notice the gap and want to bridge it. He will come forward, not just with words, but with actions, with changes, with effort. The wrong man will try to break your silence, only to restore his comfort, not to actually fix the problem. Your job is to know the difference. Silence will reveal it. So if you've ever wondered whether going silent works, remember this. Silence doesn't work to manipulate someone into loving you. It works to protect you from the person who won't. It works to give you space to see clearly, to feel the difference between someone chasing you for control and someone showing up for connection. And it works to remind him that your presence was never a guarantee. It was a privilege, one that can be taken away.